The camera's rolling. Should we start?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Excellent. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Untamed interview here with Jim Hughes, the Untamed entrepreneur. I'm here with a fine gentleman, recently left the military after a distinguished 30-plus year career, reaching the rank of Major General.
Indeed.
Recently launched his own consulting business, currently serving in the defence and securities arena,
Yep.
you say, but looking to branch out further into the organisational leadership frontier, I suppose. Would that be an accurate description?
Absolutely accurate. Yeah.
And his name is Neil Marshall. So Neil, thank you for joining me.
Jim, great, and welcome to Wiltshire.
Yes, thank you. This is actually his home. You can't quite see his house; it's out of shot. But we're near Salisbury. Is this the Salisbury Plain, or are we just near?
Oh, yeah, Groveley Wood, Salisbury Plain, that sort of age.
Okay. But it's lovely anyway, and the sun's just come out just in time for this video anyway. So we've actually just been rambling along for about, well, rambling speaking and rambling walking actually, so to speak. For the
about
last
5 miles.
Have we? Excellent.
Yeah.
I've got my iPhone, so I've got the pace counts, the steps, and yeah, we've just been discussing his viewpoints around the whole transition from being in the military to being in Civvy Street, so to speak, and going into the world of entrepreneurship, and some illuminating insights from you actually, which is interesting. Looking at it from a different angle to lots of the other people I often talk to, and there's really insightful comments. So do you want to give me a quick rundown, as we discussed before, and tell the guys, both people listening to this video, you know, you were in the military, and you, when you decided you were in the process of leaving, you kind of came up with a bit of a strategy. You had some key points that you wanted to focus on. Yeah. Do you want to run through that?
Yeah, no, well, so I fully appreciate that my circumstances are probably very different to most of the folks that you deal with. But I sort of came out of the army after a 30-year career, but I'm 52 now. I could have gone on to age 55, but I made a decision to leave 3 or 4 years early, and the decision was very much based upon of me taking control. And I think I just needed to get into the right headspace where I decided that I wasn't going to wait for a decision to be taken that could have had me serving through to my normal end of contract, and I decided to leave, and I took ownership of the decision. And I left after having spent a year in a fantastic job out in Tampa, Florida at US Central Command. But I could have gone on for another year in that job, but I made a decision to go. And it was absolutely the right decision at the right time. So it was, as one of my themes is, about making a decision on your own terms, and not feeling you're being forced into a position. So that was the sort of the sort of the liberating decision that I made. And because we'd already bought our home here in Wiltshire, I wanted to to base myself from here and work predominantly hubbed from this part of the world.
So how important was that step for you to take, where you said, I'm going to leave on my own terms, I'm not going to wait to the end of the contract, I'm not going to wait till they kick me out, till they lead me out the door? How important was that?
I think it was very important, and I didn't realise that myself. I mean, you join the army, you get into this sort of, the army has a wonderful way of nudging you along to the next job, the next phase, and the next thing you know, you're 30, you're 40, you're then approaching 50, and you think, well, I might as well see it through to the end. But there was something to me which was that would have been a bit of a tailing off, and I had reached a position and a rank that I was very comfortable with, and I had sought to achieve, and once I achieved that, and I felt I was adding the value to the organisation I was working with, US Central Command, and the Army, the British Army around, that I wasn't doing them a disservice by making a personal decision to leave early.
Yes, so you're leaving on good terms, you're leaving feeling like you'd made an impact.
Absolutely. And also feeling that I've done my duty, and that there's a whole world out there that I still want to get involved with, that may be outside of the defence domain. But there's a certain goodness in what I've done over the last 30 odd years, and I feel I've got some value to add outside of the military sphere.
And how early before you ended up leaving the military did those discussions, those internal thoughts
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I would say that there's a sort of, maybe it's a stages of life type thing, but you can start doing sort of resettlement linked activity from if you're on a full career, as I was, from age 50 onwards. But if you're making a decision to leave on your own terms earlier than that, then the resettlement process is aligned to decision. So I started my resettlement as soon as I turned 50, basically, and I had left by the time I was 52.
So 2 years prior.
Yeah,
So you had lots of time.
Yes, and I was able to start identifying. I mean, my criteria were, having decided I was going to leave, which was based upon personal decisions where I wanted to. We were unaccompanied on that tour in America. I could have gone accompanied, but we decided, having bought our own home, that I would do a year out there on my own, and then leave and come back and do the resettlement process back here in the UK. And by making those decisions quite early on, it got me into a proper place where I could plan properly. I'd already done one of the sort of the key resettlement courses, the Manchester Business School course. So I'd got myself into that space. I'd started developing my CV, and I started thinking about how I'd want to take forward my own portfolio career, because I was pretty convinced I wanted to be self-employed, and to build upon what I regarded as my two favourite jobs in the army, but outside of commanding units and soldiers. And those two favourite jobs were when I was a platoon commander at Sandhurst back in the early 90s, and then towards more recently when I was the director of the Higher Command and Staff course at the UK's Defence Academy at Shrivenham. And they were very people-focused jobs where I could see the influence and the value that I was adding having a direct effect upon the learning and the development of those emerging leaders. And that to me was a hugely motivating, stimulating and rewarding aspect of my military career. And I wanted to make sure that I took that and applied it into whatever I was going to do, not really knowing what that was going to be.
And would it be fair to say that was your thing, but that's not everybody's thing? Some people are detail orientated, some people are process driven, some people have their own, everyone's got their own angle. So it's important to understand what that is and learn that you can apply those things in the civilian life, into entrepreneurship, into self-employment.
And I think what you could identify is part of this is about knowing what motivates you, and what makes you tick, and how you come across to others as well. So I used to always enjoy seeing my subordinates, if you call them that in the military, the junior officers, the non-commissioned officers who really would seize the initiative, thrive and succeed. And I would apply extra effort and attention to them, because they were the ones who had the get up and go, and were the ones who I could see had the maximum potential themselves and the maximum benefit to the organisation. And so there's an area where it's a win-win. The individual wins, the mentor wins, and the organisation wins. So actually it's a win-win-win.
So to kind of recap then, you decided when you decided you wanted to leave, you said, right, I'm going to leave on my own terms.
Yes.
Number one.
Yeah.
Then you started putting a plan in place based on your specific situation. So
Yes.
you've got your own captain who's leaving has got their own. Do I want to commit to major or do I want to leave? Right. What are my circumstances?
Right.
What finances do I have behind me?
Right.
What lifestyle do I want to lead?
Yeah.
And then you said, right, okay, now I've got that and that. Here's my plan. What does that look like? And what I'm going to do is look back on my previous experience in the military to help design what my future
and draw upon those strands where I particularly enjoyed that. I think I was particularly good at that. And when I was doing my job out in America, where I felt I was adding the greatest value was by shaping and influencing my peers and my partner nations. There was 52 countries represented out there, and getting them into a more cohesive unit that was able to talk with one voice. And to me, there's a certain sort of goodness about identifying within an organisation where it's potentially not really joined up, or speaking to itself, or understanding its own dynamics. And I introduced a concept of what I call greater horizontal integration rather than just vertical topping up stovepipes. And this concept of horizontal integration and getting the sort of the situation better understood by a wider audience who are operating in different domains meant that the commander there could sort of exercise his command in a more effective manner.
Fantastic. Which then taking that to the entrepreneurial world is highly relevant.
Absolutely.
Of course. In large, mediums or large organisations,
Yeah.
communication between different branches, departments.
Yeah. And making the leaders more effective makes the organisation more effective, which has a positive impact on the bottom line.
Fantastic. And how important would you say the utilising the resources that you have at your disposal when you're thinking, right, okay, what does my transition journey look like?
Yeah.
What's out there and how do I utilise them?
Yeah.
And the mindset behind that.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing is in a good military manner, resettlement is not something that's done to you, it's something that you do. It's something you undertake.
Yeah.
So you've got to take control. You've got to seize the initiative. You've got to be prepared for making the odd bad call. And there was a couple of things that I did. I thought, that was a bit of a dead end. I thought I was going to go down that particular route, but it was a dead end. My fault, no one else's fault.
So take accountability.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then say to yourself, well, actually, this one seems like it's quite a good. For example, I did the self-employment awareness workshop, and I remember sitting down. It was an all ranks sort of syndicate discussion, and I was chatting with a petty officer of the Navy, a lady who was going off to build her own cake business. So we started talking about how to, we were designing a cake business, and it was great because we were talking about all the opportunities and the threats associated with that, and it was completely relevant to what I was seeking to achieve. So nothing should be sort of beneath you, or you think, well, I shouldn't engage in that, or I'm going to wait until someone tells me what to do. Identify what's out there, take a punt on certain things, and then say, well, that was 60% good. Well, 60% good is plenty.
And what was that 60%? So do it consciously.
Yes, absolutely.
Why didn't it work? And if it did work, what did it work? Why did it work? So I can then replicate that.
Absolutely, yeah. And also take advice. Yeah. And people will say to you, and I was privileged enough to do some courses earlier in my career where I had the opportunity for some coaching and mentoring. And that to me was something, I still keep the folder, which shows my sort of personality traits and all the rest of them, some of which are probably coming out here. And then identifying what were supposedly my world-beating strengths, and maximising those to further my own sort of personal satisfaction as well as professional satisfaction. And I believe that by having that sort of positive attitude, taking control, and having a plan, and having an open mind, but letting others sort of influence you as well, I think is a good start point. But it's absolutely a journey. So who knows where it takes us?
Absolutely, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for that.
That's a pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, Neil Marshall, Major General, recently left the army. Major General Neil Marshall. We are going to now design a cake business whilst eating tagliatelle and garlic bread.
That's where we're going. Yeah, maybe via the pub for a quick half pint beforehand.
That's a better plan.
Okay.